Hey there, everybody. Good to be back. Thanks for tuning in to episode 9 of the OC Modcast. We got a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the gaming industry. Xbox lays off thousands of people again after several ominous signs in the past few months. Sony is trying to backpedal from the announcement of ending physical games. Another remaster dropped the other day. We'll talk about that. And AMD's driver fix is still causing crashes when using FSR 4.1. I'm also going to show you a tip on how to upscale your movies to over 60 frames per second in real time without any re-encoding or complicated video player hacks. So stay with me because we're also diving into what the Xbox layoffs means for gamers and how it impacts your wallet. So there's a lot to cover, a lot of stuff to cover on the Microsoft front. So I'll quickly just get the Sony stuff out of the way first, and then we'll talk about Microsoft and all the Steam stuff that's been going on. So, the first thing that's going on, Sony is backpedaling on killing off physical games. The PlayStation continues to make discs, but with a catch. So last week, Sony said that they were going to end physical games. That's just the way the trend. That's just the way that things are going. It's just the trends. But there was big consumer backlash for this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But basically, here's this press release, or I should say news article. It's not a press release of Sony backpedaling on killing physical game copies. According to a report from GameFile, Sony sent a private message to PlayStation developers and publishers clarifying that they'll still be able to place reorders for physical discs of existing PlayStation games even after the cutoff date. But basically, PlayStation is going to continue to make discs, but with a catch. Basically, anything after any game released after January 2028, a physical copy will not be available. So if it's released after January 2028, there's not going to be any physical discs made. So this is really just an asterisk, a clarification on what the PlayStation is still ending physical games for their next generation console. I don't. I'll look at some articles in a minute, but I don't think that the next gen Xbox or PlayStation is planned on having disc media internally or as an add-on. PlayStation also drops a new free single-player game, but you don't need PlayStation Plus for. So you can claim a new single-player game entirely for free, and you don't need a PlayStation Plus subscription. Let's see, what is it? A free PlayStation game is called Tricky Doors. So it looks like a hunt or one of these quest games, point and click puzzle adventures. So yeah, there was a thing a couple of weeks ago where I said there were 13 free games, but 10 of them were point and click adventures, so free. But anyway, so if you are into that sort of thing, go to your PlayStation and just look for Tricky Doors, and it's free. Hooray! PlayStation 6, the release date is revealed by an insider at Sony. Yeah, I know better than to click on any videos. Got slapped by YouTube for accidentally releasing some copyrighted music on one of these videos. So a PlayStation 6 release date has been revealed by a gaming industry insider as the speculation continues to swirl about when Sony's next PlayStation console could launch. And it could launch alongside a handheld device. PlayStation will launch in fall of 2027. So, okay. Well, we all could kind of figure that out. So, this insider said a vague release date of fall next year. Well, that's probably when all the others are going to happen. So that's the Sony stuff. what about the Xbox stuff? So, let me just open these things up here. Talking about ending physical games, Xbox may end physical disc support next year. This is just the way the industry is going. The physical discs are at risk. And Insider Reports suggests Project Helix, which is the next Xbox, may not include a disk drive, signaling a potential end to physical game support. So here's the thing about, it's one thing about having a physical disc, but the thing that people may not be getting is that if you don't have a physical disc, then you're tied to that ecosystem in that you can't buy the game off of, the only way that you can buy that game is through their store. You can't buy it off Amazon. You can't buy it from a third party. There's no competition basically. And we've seen this from Nintendo, is when there's a digital only game, the prices never go on sale. I mean, the games never go on sale. And because you're locked into that ecosystem and you can't get it from anywhere else. So that's the thing, that's the flip side to ending physical game support, is that you are locked in. I mean, with PCs, people can argue that with Steam and PC games or whatever, that it's like, oh, well, that's digital only, and it's been digital only for years, and it's tied to your account. So why are people suddenly all up in arms about, ending physical game support on the consoles? Well, the difference is that there are multiple storefronts for PC games. You can get a PC game from Steam or Epic or lots of different places, even from the publisher themselves. So there's competition there. The issue with the consoles is if it's digital only, you can only buy the game from their store, and so if you want to play their game, you have to pay what price they are selling at, and you really don't have a choice. So that's the real thing that people aren't really talking about. That's the real beef about ending physical game support. It's not that, in addition to, they could rip that game away from you at any time, but you have to pay whatever price they're offering. So PlayStation's ending physical disc support, so is Xbox. So people were saying that, major releases like Grand Theft Auto 6 are already digital only. So here's the thing. When you go and buy a physical case for Grand Theft Auto 6, if you get something physical to put on your shelf, it's basically a download code. The thing that's physical is a download code. So there's no physical disc. This is reflecting a broader shift in the gaming industry towards digital distribution and cost-saving measures. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let me get a water break here. Talking is a little taxing. And funny thing is, too, it's like, nowadays with as large as games are, I went to go download one of the latest Call of Duty games, and it was, no joke, over 300 gigabytes. So a third of a terabyte. So try putting that on a couple of Blu-rays. So it would take forever to install. Honestly, I think you can download it faster than you could have installed it from Blu-ray discs. So there are some advantages to being digital only, but but that's, just knew where we were going. Game Pass could see a major change under new Xbox restructure. So we're going to talk about the Xbox restructure, and restructure meaning layoffs. And there were thousands of people laid off, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Again, I know some people in the gaming industry and at Xbox, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So let's just get through this. Game Pass could see a major change under new Xbox restructure. The CEO announced Monday that during a publicly distributed memo detailing the company's new plans, 3,200 layoffs, 4 studio divestments, maybe 5. The funny thing is, one of the game studios is in France, and they have different labor laws, so they have to do something different. It's kind of interesting. Microsoft wants to lay off people and have things quick and clean, but I know that there were issues with unions in some of these previous layoffs, so they couldn't just let people go. There were some legal things. And so, like in France, when they were trying to lay off the studio that is doing Marvel's Blade, well, France has labor laws where you can't just do that. So the studio may stay open, or I think it's technically open, but the games probably can't. But anyway, there are 3,200 layoffs, and there's red tape with that. And there's broad implications about how Xbox will approach its business over the next 12 months. Here's the funny thing. There was backlash. Speaking of customer backlash, earlier this year, or was it last year, Xbox raised Game Pass prices to $30, saying, and this was right after they acquired Activision. And they said, oh, no, the raising Game Pass has absolutely nothing to do with the billions of dollars that we spent on Activision. And there was customer backlash, and people were canceling their subscriptions. And then Microsoft said, oh, no, we were just kidding. And let's lower Game Pass back. And so they lowered it to $22 or $23. They didn't lower it to its original price. They lowered it to more than it was before. And in response to that, Xbox, well, not in response to that, but shortly after that, related or unrelated, they raised the price of the Xbox. And they're having to do layoffs. I have a video coming out next week commenting on this absolutely comical series of events and what's happening with the gaming industry. In her memo to the staff, the Xbox CEO mentioned Game Pass just once in a paragraph that can be most generously be read as skewing former CEO Phil Spencer's decade-long regime. Our business today is not healthy. We're operating at margins at 3 to 10 times lower than the comparable platform and publishing businesses. Yada, yada, yada. It's the same story. We can't make ends meet, so we're going to cut costs. And cut costs means firing people. And I've been through more layoffs than I want to remember. And the generous way of saying what happens to a company when layoffs happen is dysfunction, and people that are unqualified end up getting more responsibility. People do work of more people, and things get delayed, and costs go up. They have to hire consultants at twice the price than what the employees cost. But they shift budgets around to make the shareholders happy, but everyone gets overworked. There's inexperienced people running the helm, and that's happened. That's been the result of every single layoff that I've observed personally. And this is what's happening here. So, enough of that soapbox. I have some strong opinions about that. So, enough about that. Microsoft's laying people off. They're closing studios. No surprise. We've seen it coming. Xbox next-gen hardware avoids the axe. Project Helix is safe. Hooray! Well, let's see what people think about the new consoles next year, because let's face it, this previous console generation hasn't been great. I mean, there have been more cross-gen games. There hasn't been really any exclusives that people really wanted to buy a console for. And the consoles came out at a time when games had to support the last-gen console, so games couldn't really push the hardware couldn't really push the new hardware because they were having to be compatible with the old hardware, the last generation hardware. So, and developers also have strong opinions about how the Xbox Series X basically crippled the potential of Xbox, because game developers had to make it compatible, and Microsoft has dictated that you can't that game developers can't publish for one flavor of console and not the other. So if you support the X, you have to support the S, and that's evidenced by one game that was great that they missed the boat on, Black Myth Wukong. That is one of the games that they just could not get to work on the Series S. They finally did. It finally did come out for Xbox, but it took a while and it was delayed because of this. And I think I remember reading that one development studio or developer analyst, they were saying that Black Myth Wukong just could not run on the Xbox, and that's why it didn't come out at first. But anyway, Project Helix is coming out. It's going to be the next gen hardware. It's not going to have a disc, physical disc, but we'll see if people care, because the consoles are going to be nearly $1,000 or more. That's what everyone's speculating. People were balking about the Steam machine being $1,000, and analysts were saying it's like, oh, if this was a time when there was a very thin time slice when a console was $500 and the Steam machine was $1,000. So you'd say it was double the price, and people were saying, if only the Steam machine were $200 more than a console, then it would be something. But we can't justify the price. And then Xbox says we're raising the price and stuff like that. Xbox said they're raising the prices. So now Xbox is going to be $750 or $800 and the Steam machine's $1,000. There's really not that much of a difference between a good PC and a console. And so I know I diverged a little bit there, but basically next gen hardware is coming out. Project Helix is safe, but will people care next year? So, all right. Xbox Game Pass reportedly doing much worse than expected. Xbox Game Pass has not turned out to be as popular as expected. The gaming subscription service has been a major pillar of Xbox's strategy since its inception, and because of the crux of the business under the tenure of CEO Phil Spencer. Xbox is currently in an initiative to reset the brand. Yeah, it was funny how when they were trying to reset the brand of Xbox, they're saying everything's a PC, and people were thinking they were going to not do Xbox consoles anymore, but really push on Xbox as a brand and basically put Xbox on Windows. And I know that there's a push for an Xbox app, and people are starting to test the Xbox app and Xbox mode on Windows, and that it runs better. And I'm going to test that out myself, comparing the Xbox mode in Windows to Linux, and see what that's all about. So Xbox has gone on an acquisition spree. They purchased Activision, Blizzard, and Bethesda, when they purchased ZeniMax Media. And a key goal of such acquisitions was to grow Xbox Game Pass. Basically, day one stuff. You buy the subscription, you don't have to buy day one stuff. And when Xbox was acquiring Activision, they said, we're not going to mess with Call of Duty, because it's a good franchise on PC and PlayStation and lots of things. And, we're going to make it available on Game Pass. We're not going to mess with Call of Duty. But Xbox announced only recently, last week, I covered this, that Call of Duty, the next Call of Duty, will not be on Game Pass day one. You basically, because they want you to buy it outright. So there goes that. So they increased the price of Game Pass, so people could possibly say that it's worth it if you truly did get these irresistible games on day one. But they rolled that back. So anyway, Microsoft has acquired a lot of game companies, and they are laying off a bunch of thousands of people now. And I'll talk about the details of that and some of the stuff that's not in the news, because I know some people in the industry. So I'll tell you what happens behind closed doors and the whispers in the hallways. Let's see. While the actual financials of Xbox Game Pass remain undisclosed, the service accruing less than 50% of its expected subscribers by this year is drastic underperformance. Game Pass had 34 million subscribers in 2024, about 2 years ago, and after frequent price changes, mostly increases, it has affected the service and it is critically plateaued. So Game Pass isn't doing great. And it's officially the end of an era for Starfield. So Starfield was a Bethesda game, the people that made the Elder Scrolls. And Starfield, a lot of Bethesda games were basically run on the same engine that the Elder Scrolls 3 was on. They just keep updating it. And so Starfield feels kind of the same, and it feels a little quirky, and it's because it's based on the same engine. So I'll have to look at my notes, but I think that some people that were working on Starfield were gutted. There were a lot of projects at Bethesda or ZeniMax Media whose projects were basically gutted, and I'll give you the details on that in a little bit. Starfield was supposed to be the next big thing for the studio, and it was met with a polarizing response at launch. Some fans didn't stick around to check out all the enhancements. And basically now Starfield is over. They're not going to, they let a bunch of people go at Bethesda. And let me go through my notes here. ZeniMax will face a significant overhaul and will pivot to focus on the biggest franchises: Fallout, The Elder Scrolls. I'll talk about that in a second. Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein. A lot of people at id were let go. The Elder Scrolls, when they say the Elder Scrolls, they mean the Elder Scrolls 6. The Elder Scrolls Online is basically done, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So when they say they're focusing on their biggest franchises, there's a little asterisk there. That doesn't mean everything Elder Scrolls, that just means Elder Scrolls 6. Xbox big reset now hitting studios that don't even belong to Microsoft. So letting off thousands of people. So when you have lots of game developers, thousands, literally thousands of game developers, and there's only so many people that employ game developers, it's not like these people can suddenly do web applications, or something else. They're used to doing something in Unreal Engine or something else, something that's game related. That programmers can program just about anything, but what they're experienced with, they can't. So when you let thousands of people go, where are they going to go? Especially if they're located in one particular geographic area, like in the Seattle area. When thousands of people are let go, the city's got to absorb that. Over in Bethesda, Maryland, when they let go a bunch of people, where are they going to go? There's only so many game studios. Some people have to move. So, but let's go through. That's my little opinion there before looking at this article here. There's studio closures and layoffs. The Istanbul studio is closing with layoffs affecting multiple offices, including the staff of 007 First Light, which was a big hit. It's amazing. IOI is prioritizing its main internal projects and independence as a AAA developer. IO Interactive has regained full ownership of Project Fantasy following the end of the game's external finance partnership. So, yep. There's impacts just across. When Microsoft lets people go, it affects the entire industry. But Bethesda dev is worried Xbox layoffs could end Fallout 76 updates without help. Well, the short story is Fallout 76 is done. There's no one left to do it. Microsoft gutted the team. There aren't going to be any Fallout 76 updates. It's going to... So if there are people left that are working on it, they're inexperienced people or interns or something. But uh, based on the sources I have, the team that was working on Fallout 76 is gutted. There's not going to be any Fallout 76 information. Fallout 76 development. In the wake of this week's massive wave of 3,200 Xbox layoffs, there are fears that support for the long-running Appalachian venture may soon come to an end. Teams under the ZeniMax and Bethesda umbrella have been affected significantly. Click on that. I was trying to emphasize significantly, including the game steward, Bethesda Game Studios. It's been reported that over 50 staffers have been cut from Bethesda across its headquarters in Rockville, Maryland, and its office in Dallas, Texas. A reduction in force that has the Elder Scrolls 6 devs fearing crunch and delays of the long-awaited RPG. Bethesda developer commented to IGN that they have no idea how they'll continue updating Fallout 76 without hiring an external studio. That's what I was talking about earlier. They're going to have to hire a consultant. If they want to get a project done, it's going to cost them more money because they're going to have to hire consultants. So I'm surprised that they're even saying, I don't know how we're going to get Fallout 76 done, because it should be painfully obvious when they gutted the team that there's no one to do it. So it's done. I thought Xbox, I'm not even going to talk about this because this is something I'm going to cover next week. That the Xbox full screen mode, comparing it to Linux, and if there's true performance gains and how it makes your games run faster on Windows. We won't talk because that's not related to the industry stuff of the Xbox layoffs. Let me open up this Steam stuff here. Oh, so here's something funny. So because I've been looking at Steam machine stuff, guess what popped up in Amazon? This was in my news feed, and it took me to a link to Steam machines. Look at that. Isn't that fun? An actual Steam machine. Let me open these things up. All about Steam. Close that. An indie game dev speaks out against Steam policy after 55,000 refunds. So basically, here's the story. Steam has a policy that if you can beat a game in under 2 hours, you can request a refund. And there's a game that called Paddle, Paddle, Paddle that has been refunded 55,000 times because players are completing it in under 2 hours. It has 90% positive reviews, but Steam allows refunds under 14 days, under 14 days and 2 hours of gameplay, and this has led to refund abuse. So, the title, it sounds like Steam is some big notorious ogre, but the developers kind of shot themselves in the foot. They knew what the policy was. They knew that they had to have known that there was a potential for abuse. But anyway, one developer is upset that they lost a bunch of money because Steam has refunded the game because they completed it too quickly. Steam is officially making a Zelda-like RPG completely free. So there's a game called Moonlighter. Let's just go to Steam-powered Moonlighter. And it is... Don't play music. Oh. Well, forget I said anything. This was supposed to be free. Oh, I'm sorry. If you wait until next month, you can grab Moonlighter for free. So in August, it'll be free. Okay. So it is $20 right now. And next month in August, it will be completely free. Meaning you can skip paying even the mere $3 it costs right now. What was this on a sale? Do I have the right game? I guess so. Anyway, I don't make the news, I just read it. So here's a funny thing is you can upgrade your Steam Deck, the RAM. You can upgrade the RAM from 16 gigabytes to 32 gigabytes. There's a service where this is on eBay of all places, where you send in your Steam Deck and they will upgrade your Steam Deck to 32 gigabytes of RAM for $450. So if you want to buy a $950 console and then upgrade the RAM, so you can buy a 32, so you can get a 32 gigabyte Steam Deck for the low price of $1,500. I love the Steam Deck, and it's great, but it's not the most powerful thing in the world. And I'm not sure the advantage of 32 gigs of RAM. It'll probably help in some games, but probably not as much as you think. But that's a thing. Steam users can grab a 2D platform before it's delisted. So there is a game, I checked this out the other day, called The Lonely Helmet. And it's completely free right now. No, don't play music because I don't want to get slapped by YouTube. So it's a neat little platformer. It's actually kind of hard. And it is completely free, but it's going to be delisted. So go ahead and get that because it's completely free. It's going to be delisted, and then you'll have it in your library forever. Valve has posted a fix for the Steam Machine red line of death. So there's some information about that. Basically, some people were getting a red line of death. There was a BIOS issue, and I think it's in here where someone has a picture of the red line of death, and people were comparing it to Xbox 360's red ring of death. Basically, the fix is to unplug it overnight. Well, one fix is to unplug. There's I think a BIOS issue or a power supply issue. So one way is to unplug it overnight, or you can unplug it and press the power button like a couple of times to discharge the power supply. You plug it back in, and I think you press the power button, press and hold it, or either press it a couple of times, and the light bar will change color, do color cycling. And when you release the power button on one of these colors, it has different recovery modes. And so there is a fix for that. If you do encounter this, it's not an overheating problem or any physical hardware problem like there was with the Xbox 360. If there's a red ring, or excuse me, a red bar that's happening, there's a fix for that. It's a fluke, and it doesn't happen to very many people. But if you do have it, you can call Steam Tech Support to get the actual, because I was just paraphrasing from what I heard. What I just said may not be the actual fix, but it's something to that effect, where you press the power button and hold it, or press it a couple of times, and the LED bar will flash different colors, and then you can have different recovery options. Let me just see if it's actually detailed in here. So the person who originally reported this said, yeah, my bad, this really wasn't a big problem after all, but, it was sensationalized. Hold down the power button for 6 seconds. You'll see the power indicator flash momentarily. Release the power button, and then the power indicator will start to cycle some color codes. These are designed to allow you to select various options for recovery or troubleshooting. When the LED turns green, short press the power button. This will perform a full CMOS reset. And then on the next boot, the RGB bar is blue, and it'll take a little bit longer to boot, but it's doing a memory retraining. That was one thing that I ran into when I built my PC, and my son, who was helping me with it, because I was turning it on, it wasn't turning on, and I was starting to panic. And my son was like, it's doing a memory retraining, and I'm like, I've never heard of that. It's like that's how PCs work nowadays. So it had been a while since I built a PC, again, but things have changed. So that's one of the things. When you first boot something up, especially after doing a CMOS reset, there's a memory retraining, and so it can take a little longer to boot up. That's just how it is. Valve releases drivers for Windows. So you can install. So this is the great thing about Valve. It's like, do you see Sony or Microsoft saying, hey, we're going to give you instructions on how to install an alternate operating system. Use the device however you want. No, because the manufacturers are subsidizing their consoles. They're taking a loss on the console, so they don't want you using it for anything other than something that makes them money. But Valve says you can totally install Windows on the Steam machine if you want to, and they're giving you drivers. They're saying, it's not supported, so don't call Steam support, for any support. But they're they're giving you the drivers. If you want to install Windows on that, you can. You can dual boot it if you want. So all the drivers for the Steam Deck and the Steam machine, covering the APU, the graphics card, the SD card, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and audio, making Windows 11 installation easier. If you want to do that, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you want to play some of the games that will only work on Windows, and those are usually highly competitive games that have some anti-cheat that won't work on Linux, then by all means, you can totally install Windows on your machine. Or just have a portable, all-in-one machine. But that's the great thing. Valve is allowing you to do it. So you can. Other console manufacturers aren't letting you do that. Valve rolls out updates and showcases hardware performance. The latest Steam Deck update adds quick chat access, remote downloads management, and various fixes to enhance gameplay and system use. There's additional optimizations for some games. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced runs smoothly on Steam Deck. I installed it yesterday, and I compared. This is the funny thing is, I'll talk about this, and I have some game footage of Black Flag Resynced on my main monster PC, and I had some issues with the new AMD drivers that allow FSR 4.1, and I was going to compare and contrast the old Black Flag to the new one, but I had some issues. So I installed them on the Steam Deck, and on the Steam Deck, Black Flag Resynced used about 6 gigs of video memory, or allocated 6 gigs of the unified memory, whereas the original one used 2. And honestly, the old one plays a lot better. It's got a smaller screen and a smaller resolution, so you really don't notice the big textures anyway. In my opinion, the original Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is a better experience on the Steam Deck than a Black Flag Resynced on the Steam Deck. That's just my opinion. I've tested them both. I had to do some tricks to get a good frame rate out of it, but you didn't have to do so much tweaking on the original version. Although some could say the gameplay is different, and I'll talk about that in a minute, what the difference is with Assassin's Creed Black Flag and why you probably would want to play it again. There's only some Assassin's Creed games that I actually like, but a few of them are worth playing again. So, and Black Flag is one of them. I like pirates. So, Valve open sourced its e-ink faceplate design for the Steam machine. Basically, there's a faceplate that's going to have, it's going to print out stuff on what looks like paper. So it's going to be an e-ink display for the Steam machine. Valve pushes a major Steam Deck update to the stable channel. Introduce quicker chat. Yeah, we talked about that. Why this update matters for Steam Deck users. A SteamOS change addressed a bug that slowed Wi-Fi on certain routers. Yep. Okay. So there's some performance enhancements. Okay. They did an update. Great. That's just a sensationalized article. That's not news. Yeah, there are people coming out of the woodwork saying, it's like, yeah, I can create a machine that does everything better than the Steam machine. Well, yeah, of course. those are coming out of the work. I'm working on a few of them myself. And like last week, we talked about that there's a Steam roller machine that is a pre-built PC. It's bigger than the Steam Deck. It's louder than the Steam Deck. It's cheaper than the Steam machine. It's cheaper, $200 cheaper, but it's also 1 terabyte less. So go figure. So if it actually had, so it was bigger and louder, but if it actually had the same, if it actually had a 2 terabyte drive, then it would actually be the same price. So, but anyway, people are making their own. People are making their own Steam machines, basically pre-built PCs. But there's some fluff that you don't get, like the BIOS codes and stuff like that. It's made, the Steam machine is made to be an appliance. So you don't have to mess with BIOS settings or anything like that. You just turn it on and it works. Let me queue up some of the other news here. And so with the Steam Roller, it's a custom built PC, and people, because it uses a desktop graphics card, of course it's going to run faster and run better than what the Steam machine is going to do. But you're not going to get CEC features. You're not going to be able to turn on your PC and TV from a controller. Although there was some solutions I was looking at that I might see if I can get to work. It's basically a CEC device that plugs into USB. So so it's a little device. It's a little dongle that you plug a USB into into your computer, and then your HDMI cable into it, and then the output of that goes to your TV, and it's supposed to let you do CEC features like, control the volume from your computer and vice versa, and turn off the TV when your computer turns off, things like that. So I'm going to check that out, see if that has, if that's only for Windows or if that is kind of universal, if there's a way to get SteamOS to recognize it and use it. But anyway, other tech news. Prime Video, no, I'm not even going to talk about that. There's an Asus ROG X-Real R1 XR glasses. And there's a review. And one thing about XR glasses is augmented reality glasses is it's basically a big display for your face without all of the stuff of a VR headset. And I tried some out, and they're kind of neat. It makes movie watching really neat. And one neat thing, and I'm going to have an article about this, is you can recreate the 3D effects of the 3DS and the Virtual Boy if you have a pair of VR glasses. I've tested it out. It works on my Steam Deck. Basically, I plug some augmented reality glasses into my Steam Deck, and I load up an emulator, and I can totally play in 3D with all of the 3D effects. So you don't have to say goodbye to your classic 3D games. But anyway, so here's a branded Asus ROG glasses. It exists. It delivers 240 hertz gaming. And so that's the thing about these augmented reality glasses and VR headsets. You want a higher refresh rate because otherwise you're going to get motion sickness. Ask me how I know. Works with USB-C or ROG control deck, supporting PCs, consoles like Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5 with HDR10 tone mapping. So I would imagine that this is going to be an OLED. It is an OLED. OLED technology. The best XR glasses are OLED. That's just how they work. And they're kind of neat and kind of fun. Oh, and another thing that's really cool, like remember with 3D TVs used to be a thing, 10, 15 years ago? Well, you can get 3D movies and experience them again with these glasses, and just basically basically what you do is on these 3D movies, it's a side-by-side, SBS is how the video is encoded. So you have two versions of the movie on a 1080p screen, cut down the middle, and you just press a button on these XR glasses and it will split the display into two, one into each eye. And so you can experience the 3D movies again. So anyway. Did MSI just give gamers and overclockers a new source of ultra high speed DDR5? MSI has a new BIOS that supports Chinese CXMT memory chips up to 8,200 megatransfers per second, unlocking much faster kits from the niche memory brand and providing some light relief from the RAM pricing crisis. So that's interesting. So there's RAM that's 8,200 megatransfers a second, and MSI has a new BIOS that lets you use it. So awesome. Gaming industry risks downturn amid high cost digital shift. Component shortages driven by AI data center expansion have kept console and PC prices elevated. No duh. Physical media is ending. Affordable games shine. And so that's another reason to have Steam. There is so much content on Steam from indie developers. A lot of fun, weird stuff that would never have gotten greenlit by anything else is on Steam. And you can make a PC that's affordable. Any different, and a lot of these indie games don't require, the fastest video card. Some of my favorite games, like Dome Keeper, it'll run on a potato, and it's super fun. There's lots of little indie gems like that. Let's see. Component shortages are keeping prices high. Sony's digital-only plan raises concerns. Yeah, this is nothing new. This is what we've been talking about. This is the way the industry is going. It's like I had a little short about, that gaming, that people were talking about the Steam Machine being a luxury console for the rich. And somebody commented that gaming just feels like it's becoming unaffordable, and gaming is a hobby for the rich now. So the base NVIDIA Shield TV vanishes from major retailers. So people are wondering what this means if NVIDIA is removing the Shield TV. And that could be rising memory prices, and NVIDIA is shifting a focus to AI. The Pro model is still available, but, so people are wondering what that means. But the base NVIDIA Shield TV is being pulled from retailers. So if you like that and want it, go ahead and see if you can get one now, because they're not going to be available. And of course, Teams sucks. So, well, I'm not going to say that. Teams made another change and people don't like it. Imagine that. Let me see. Let me catch up on my notes. Okay, so more details about Xbox. And so I know some people in the industry and people who have been personally affected from the layoffs from Microsoft and Bethesda. And so here's the stuff that you don't hear from the press releases. Half of id is gone. All of the Elder Scrolls Online is gone. So expect the Elder Scrolls Online to sunset. Microsoft has publicly said that they want to focus on core IPs now. Elder Scrolls is one of them, but it's the Elder Scrolls 6. On Monday, this past Monday, Microsoft laid off half of the Elder Scrolls Online team, including almost all leads and even the game's director. A lot of folks at Bethesda are gone. Most of the people from Fallout 76 got canned. One of the people that garnered some goodwill with Xbox was the backwards compatibility program. That's one of the things that garnered some loyalty from Xbox fans, was this Xbox compatibility thing. When the new consoles came out with Xbox One, and they had Xbox 360 compatibility. When the new Xbox Series came out, it was backwards compatible with the Xbox One. Well, the person who basically developed that compatibility program, or created and ran that division, is not with the company anymore. That guy just got laid off. So another thing that's interesting. So that's just the nitty gritty of that's the behind the scenes of what's happening. So those are the changes. What's happened with Xbox and the layoffs. So, I was testing out. Let me open up Assassin's Creed Black Flag here. Let's have this run in the background. So one of the things about Assassin's Creed Black Flag is that it has a benchmark mode, and so I had the new AMD Adrenalin drivers 26.6.4, which is supposed to fix FSR 4.1. I had 26.6.2 and it crashed spectacularly. So I did this. I wanted to try out FSR 4, and this is a benchmark running at 1440 with no frame generation or anything. It's getting about 60 frames a second. You can see it's a Ryzen 9 9950 X3D, a Radeon RX 7900 XTX. So it has 24 gigs of video memory, and it's getting about 60 frames a second. This is with no frame generation, no nothing on it. But as soon as I enabled, so here I am in the video, enabling FSR 4 and turning all the frame generation and stuff on, and I go to play, and it crashes. No warning, no nothing, no message, just hard crash. And the thing is, there's no way that I could find. So you can see me here trying to play it again. It just crashes. There's no way to get back into the game to undo it. There's probably a way to, with a startup flag or something like that, or a command flag or whatever, or something you can do to get it to reset the graphics. But FSR 4.1 on my card is 7900 XTX. The flagship RDNA 3 video card does not work with FSR 4. It completely borks. And I had rolled back to 25, the 26.5 drivers, and those are working. And then I ran Black Flag, and let me show you that. And you can see up in the corner here, I'm getting, well, it's really too small to see it with this game footage. I'm getting 150 frames a second. So maybe with FSR 4, you squeeze a few more frames a second out of it. But the stable drivers, with FSR 4, with the same thing. So with nothing on, with the new drivers, I was getting 60 frames a second. With the old drivers, with FSR and all this sort of thing, I'm getting 150 frames a second with Assassin's Creed Remastered. Or Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Remastered. That's a mouthful. So that's that. Let me look at so we talk, or resynced is what they're calling it. Assassin's Creed Black Flag resynced. And so the footage for that is also on the OC Mod Shop Clips channel. So here it is. Here's the thumbnail. Crash Black Flag Remastered. And so that video on that crash is there if you want to see that. I'm going to put up the intro. So the interesting thing about Black Flag, there's some gameplay changes. And so at first it's like, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to play a game slower? Because it does require a big beefy computer to do it. Although you can run it on the Steam Deck. And it does play, and it's playable, but the older one is a better experience, in my opinion. Although the thing is, there's different game mechanics. It's not just a reskin. There's a real game change. So one of the things is that you can now swim underwater. In the old game, you could only swim on the surface. But now you can swim underwater, and when you're swimming to the shore in the first part of the game, In the first game, you just beeline it to the shore, but now there's like a log on fire in the way, and you have to go under. And there's a new parry system. The controls are different. So normally when you go into the bushes, you would automatically crouch, and now you can manually crouch, so you can stand up in the bushes now. So there's some different gameplay dynamics with the new game. So it's not just a reskin; it's actually different gameplay. There's some different parkour dynamics, and when they mean different parkour dynamics, they means we'll let you jump off a building if you want to. It's not on guardrails. I mean, it's like there are some options in the menus to basically say, don't let me do anything stupid. But if you enable those options, then you have complete freedom, and you can parkour off a building if you want to and kill yourself. So when they say new parkour moves, it basically just means we'll let you kill yourself. So, but it's neat. I'm playing it. I dig it. I saw a video about with all the hullabaloo about physical media, that you can make a physical backup of Steam games. So in this video, and let me know if I should do something like this, and I'll do a tutorial on how to do it. Basically, you can back up your Steam games and put them on a disc, a Blu-ray or a CD or a DVD, and when you stick in the disc, it will launch the game, and you can actually do a backup. So, but since it's a snapshot in time, and then you burn the disc, if there's any updates, then you'll have to install on top of that. So the game, you don't play from the game like you did with the Xbox 360. You basically put the game in the drive, and it's basically restore a backup. And but there's a video on basically the experience of, like, if you have a disk drive, you can put a disk in the drive and it will launch the game. It'll still have to authenticate through the store. And I don't even think Xbox will let you play a game off the console if the console's online. So even if you have a physical media and you install it, it still needs you to connect to the store in order to play the game. So this is a similar experience. I really don't see a lot of practicality in doing this, but you can do it. But let me know. Is it worth having a physical backup of a Steam game? Let me know. And since you have to be online to authenticate, what's the point? It's neat in that the disk will auto-run the game when you put it in. But you still have to take up space on your hard drive, and it doesn't run off the disk. Although I'm curious if somehow you can have Steam install to a optical drive. You set up an alternate location to where your Steam installs to, and then you basically would have to replicate that folder structure onto a disk. But I wonder if that would work. And then you could just put in different discs. It's kind of interesting, but not practical. So, and also, hecklers are helping make some better content. So, I got someone put in a comment on one of my videos about, and basically talking about the things I'm talking about in this video here, is a luxury console for the rich. And if only the Steam machine were only $200 more than a console, then it would be something. Well, guess what? Microsoft last week raised its price to $800. Steam machine's $1,050. The Xbox is now going to be $800. Well, you got your wish. I heard. So that short, someone said, "How do I dislike this and never see it again?" And it's like, that's the thing. You can, just like in life, if you don't like something, you can change the channel. And there is a way to not see things ever again. You can go up to these three dots here, and you can say, don't recommend this channel. But the dislike button is gone from YouTube. So you can still dislike things like comments and stuff like that, but they used to have a dislike button on shorts, but that's now gone. But anyway, somebody said, how do I dislike this and never see it again? And so the thing that puzzles me is, like, do they just disagree with reality? I'm just the messenger. Did they not like that the content? Did they not like the video, or they don't like that, that the reality of consoles are not affordable anymore, and the Steam Machine is actually a good value now that consoles have raised their prices. So here's the thing. I am a professional riffer, and I can turn around your negative comment into something that brings attention to you. And some of my best content has started from a negative comment. So if you want to never see this again, then don't prompt me to make more content about it. This is one of my higher rated shorts. But here's the thing: if you don't like that, if you dislike this because this is what's happening in the world, we change things by doing something about it. So if you don't like that this is happening in the world, do something about it. I have a voice and I'm using it. If you don't like the prices, then vote with your wallet. A more effective way to actuate change is to get others to vote with their wallet. And we have that power. So in a way, your negative comment is helping shape the reality that you want. I think your anger is misdirected to me. You don't like what's happening in the world, and I'm just the messenger. But by calling it out, I'm helping to change it. Your voice is heard, and it joins thousands of others. I don't like it either. I dislike that this is happening in the world too. But saying, how do I dislike this? Just because, I don't like a lot of the news that's going on in the world, but I don't click the thumbs down button on the news. I can't. How to change the world. Anyway, here is, as promised, there is a way to get. Let me get this queued up. So there's a DRM free movie called Buck Bunny, and I'll show it here to demonstrate. I'm going to show you how to get 60 frames a second or more out of a video. It used to be, so I'm a home theater enthusiast, and I have been trying to get high, way back in the day, I was really impressed with these smart TVs that did motion interpolation, and they call it smart framing or smooth motion, and there's all sorts of different things. And that's the funny thing is these TVs that have really low powered hardware in it could do motion interpolation, but computers couldn't. I mean, and even 10, 15 years ago, there was a project called Smooth Video Project. Just look up SVP. Smooth Video Project. Wait, that's not it. Oh my God. SVP. And so basically what this does is this installs and configures VLC or some other media players with some other software, and basically redoes the video in real time and to upscale it to 60 frames a second. But the thing is, when you skip around, it has to redo it, and it's a little laggy and whatever, but you can do it, or you could re-encode your thing. So I'm going to show you how to upscale a video to 60 frames a second or more in real time using a product that I've talked about before called lossless scaling. And basically you open up lossless scaling, basically just make some frame generation stuff, and it'll work on any video card. So you open up lossless scaling, and basically what you do is you set your type to LSFG 3.1, the capture API to WGC. You can turn on these options here if you want, of clipping the cursor or not. The scaling, this is to scale it up. I chose FSR. You don't really have to change this. And then the rendering. And the GPU, you can choose whatever GPU you want. And I've tested this out, and you can use an internal GPU and it works just fine. But basically what you do, once you set this up and have this running in the background, then you can either click this scale button on the active window or do a hotkey, which is Alt-Control-S. So I'm just going to minimize this. And I've really noticed this working best on, or when you see it most notably when there's some panning shots, so it might be a little hard to do. So the one thing that you got to do first is you have to put it in full screen mode first. So full screen mode, and now I'm going to press Control Alt S, and now over in the corner here, you can't really see it, it's too small, but the original frames is 24 frames a second, and it's upscaling to 72 because I have a 3-time frame generation on. So it's noticeable here, and when there's some panning shots, it's very noticeable. So here it is off, and it actually looks a little clunky. Look at that. That looks a little choppy. And turn the smooth motion back on, just with a hotkey, and it works. There is a little... since I rolled back to the AMD 26.5 drivers, there's some issues where if I like double click to to bring it back to windowed mode, it's still full screen. I have to press the hotkey to do that. But with 26.6 drivers, I can turn this on. See, if I press Control S, it's going to make it full screen again. But it'll do it in a window and keep it as a window. But you can toggle frame interpolation in real time using your GPU just by using lossless scaling. And so you can upgrade your videos in real time doing that. And so that was something that has been a long time coming. I don't know why we haven't been able to do that before. I mean, why is it taking so long? I mean, it's like, that's what basically FSR does. When I heard about FSR and these technologies and DLSS and all these sort of things, I'm like, that's basically what Smooth Video Project has been doing, and the GPU's doing it. Why can't we get a video player to do this? Why doesn't Windows Media Player and VLC support this natively? But you can do it with lossless scaling. I think it's time for retroware. I've actually gone past I'm gonna, whatever I had to talk about, I am going to, since this is all about video cards and stuff like that, I'm going to talk about this video card here. The GeForce FX 5200 series. So there's the box and lots of photos, but look at how small these video cards were back in the day. So a really tiny heatsink. This was an AGP card. And a single Molex connector. But this was the GeForce FX video card, the 5200 series. And there's one of the NVIDIA demos. This was mind-blowing at the time. And so there's a video card there for retroware. And here is the Matrox Dual Head to Go. This was an external device that you plugged the output of your video card into, basically a VGA out, and it went to DVI out, and you plugged it into 2 separate monitors, and you installed a custom driver, and it would basically split your display into the 2 monitors. You can see it looking there. Working on laptops and stuff. You basically installed a different driver, and you can do similar things like this with custom resolutions today in AMD and NVIDIA software. And but this is basically what it was doing: is you install a custom driver to do a custom resolution, and then this device would split it into the different monitors. And it was USB. You had to plug USB and the VGA cables into that. And I have some screenshot. Yeah, so there's Counter-Strike running in the Dual Head Go, and I took a screenshot of it. And so imagine a big freaking bezel in the middle of that. So with first-person shooter games, 2 monitors didn't work as well as you thought it was, because where you're aiming is in between the bezels. And I think it had software that you could adjust the bezel so that it was more natural to look at. But, like in third-person mode, basically the person you're standing is cut off by the bezel. So a lot of games, 2 monitors wasn't as good as you thought it was, but 3 monitors was the thing, and I have another video about that. Or I'll talk about this in another retroware. So that is the Matrox Dual HUD to go. That was a fun little thing to do. And here is a Sapphire HD 4850 X2. They basically did SLI on one card. There's 4 DVI outputs there, 2 for each of the video cards. So this was, or video chips. So it had 2 chips on there that were basically running in SLI mode on one card. Radeon graphics. Yep. So that was kind of neat and interesting. And let me just look. Yeah, a lot of. Oh, so that was the heatsink that I took off. A lot of. So, but yeah, it was basically a SLI on one card, and that was really innovative. A 4850 X2 video card, and that was fun. But they don't make anything like that anymore. It's like, so now there's no SLI anymore. You can't buy 2 NVIDIA cards and run them together, but why don't they do something like this where they have 2 cards on it or 2 chips on it to do SLI internally? I don't know. So that's the retroware. Let me see if there's anything else going on, but I think that's it. Oh, articles this week that dropped this week. I got a budget microphone, a Fifine AM8. This was a sponsored product. Basically, they gave me the microphone. It's a $60 microphone, but I did a quick video on it. And it's surprisingly impressive. You know, it's like I didn't have any qualms about it. You know, I'm not like... So it's fine. I have it was comparing basically an article on what I look for in a pro controller, and want to check out that video because these are the things I look for at a minimum. And there happened to be a budget controller. I know I've mentioned it in the podcast several times before, of this 8-bit do controller that does a lot of the things that I look for in a controller. So there's the video here. And then an article dropped this week about basically making the DualSense PC controller do everything that the Steam controller can do. And including the touchpad keyboard, it'll do rumble, and it'll do some things the Steam controller can't do, like rumble effects and audio through Bluetooth without having to be connected to the PC, and it will rumble. Like when I'm playing Dead by Daylight, and there's the rumble of the generator, you feel it in your hands. When you're playing music, it rumbles to the beat and to the music. Articles next week. So what we got going on next week is I got that Lampoon video that I was talking about with the Xbox layoffs. And I'm going to show you how I ascended 20 Steam levels in 30 minutes. Yesterday, no joke, my Steam level was 21. It is now 41, and I did it in less than 30 minutes. And I'll show you how to do it too. And in the next few days, I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to be level 60. So there's an article coming out next week. The reason the Steam frame is going to clobber meta. How to build a killer gaming rig. Choosing the right monitor arm. Because I have an ultra widescreen monitor, and it's too heavy for the light monitor arm, the Ergotron that I have, and it's too light for the heavy monitor arm. So I'm going to be talking about that and installing that. If you haven't figured out all the settings, I haven't figured out all the settings on my ultra wide monitor. There's lots of different configuration that changes with the context, and so I'm going to do a video on that. So if you're confused and confounded by what all these monitor settings do, because they're basically like smart TVs now, then I'm going to have an article about that. And I might do a gadget review of a new desk dial that someone sent me for do similar things like the Stream Deck does. And that is it, everybody. That's all that she wrote. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for episode 10. And as always, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the support. even if you don't have nice things to say, it still helps me make good content. It still helps me make negative. It still helps me make content even when you don't like stuff, because it's a feedback that I get and I really do take to heart. And I appreciate everyone, even when the things aren't so nice. And I hope you're having fun. So thank you guys.